Hi. So today my topic is about pandemic magnifies the virtue of human condition. Mainly this topic came through the recent event the whole world has seen around the COVID-19. I just want to highlight what is a pandemic and really how it magnifies the virtue of human condition. Looking back at a number of different events that happened with organizations and people, and how community came together and family came together to help each other and be able to support each other, and without really being under a force like a pandemic, some of that element wouldn't surface to the naked eye, and we wouldn't be able to see really the value and the goodness behind it. So my outline is going to go through what is a pandemic, the virtue theory, the human nature. I'm going to also talk about Ford Motor Company quickly and some of the things they had done through this pandemic and how it highlight the purpose and the core value of the organization. And we'll open it to question and answers at the end. So in general, when we're talking about pandemic, the classic definition of a pandemic doesn't include anything about immunity or the virus, doesn't include anything about population or the disease severity. What really the definition around pandemic, it's a epidemic that occurred worldwide. It's a global outbreak of a disease that's crossing a geographic boundary, crossing international boundaries, and usually it impacts a big number of people. Looking at some of the outcome that we see around the globe, mainly people focused in the economic situation, some of the drop we've seen in the markets. This is not part of the topic that I have in mind. We're not going to go into the detail of the billions of dollars that have been lost. What I want to focus on is mainly what we've been seeing, the different element of help, goodness that came through from companies and individuals. I want to really break down what is a human virtue, looking at what are the different elements that come together, why certain people tend to do certain things or certain organizations tend to do certain things. Hopefully that's going to give you a better understanding on how things are happening around you and what are the different things that you can put in perspective. So looking back at just generally organizations, what is an organization? I think I pulled this definition from Wikipedia. I Googled it, and it says it's just a group of people working together in an organized way to share a common purpose. Although it's very simple, you need to understand that it's around people, it's around really a common purpose, and really it's around working together. In any organization, you're going to see a number of different elements. The way I look into things, you're going to see in any organization people, you're going to see processes, you're going to see technologies, you're going to see a lot of different things around leadership. You're looking at really what the organization is providing, what results we have, what value it brings in. Maybe it's value to the stakeholders, maybe it's value to the world around it, and what are the core values of an organization. All of this plays a big role in really defining an organization. So it's not just around the financial gain of an organization. It's not just around the product of an organization. Big part of it is really the people. When we're talking about people, we're talking about the employees, we're talking about the customers, we're talking about what make things happen within an organization. Probably you're familiar with some of this, since this is more or less targeted around business agility. There's a number of different processes, frameworks, there's a number of different approaches. When we're talking about agile, you see the manifesto and other things around it, the iterative development. None of this is part of the discussions or the topic we're going to be talking about. What I'm going to be mainly focusing is around the virtue of people. And this is a snapshot of one of the organizational core value. And we start seeing a lot of these things across the globe with different organizations, where you see the core value of the organization is focusing around respect, integrity. All of these are really characteristics of people, individuals, as well as the organization, because the organization is a group of people. So we see a lot of innovation, we see a lot of accountability, relationships. So this comes back to the human element within any organization. Those are the core values of what we've been seeing lately, successful organization, if they live them right. Not just a value that they put on a piece of paper or they publish across multiple media sites. It's really about holding themselves accountable to those values. What is the virtue theory? When I'm looking at virtue theory, I went back and looked at the definition of a virtue theory, and it basically talks about just focusing on being good, taking the right action, and things will effortlessly happen. Become a good person and you will do good things. It's very simple, straightforward. If you're good, good intentions, good actions, things are gonna fall in place. What is virtue? Virtue is really a skill, a way of living, and something that you really can learn only from experience. I don't think you're just gonna read a book and become virtue. Some people, when they look into virtue is just knowledge that is called practical wisdom. So it's really something that you have to live in and out. When we talk about agile, we talk about business agility, we talk about agile frameworks, you see a lot of the really seasoned agile coaches. They don't say, I'm gonna work with a team, transform, and I'm gonna make them agile. They're gonna be agile. So they live it day to day, in and out. So that's the idea of same thing when we're talking about virtue. You're either it or not. Aristotle actually defines it in a very nice way. I love the way he looks into it, and it's very simple. Having virtue just means doing the right thing at the right time, in the right way, in the right amount, toward the right people. Cannot get any simpler than that. Although it's laid out very simply, it's really difficult to get the right thing, to know the right time, really to do the right way, to do it at the right amount, and really to understand who are the right people that you're going after. Based on my experience in life, I think this comes through experience. That's why we say you have to live it. And when you're talking about Aristotle, the question's been asked to him, can you be more specific? And his answer was, no need to be specific, because if you're virtuous, you know what to do all the time. You know how to handle yourself and how to get along with others. You have a good judgment, you can read the room, and you know what the right and when. Every one of us knows somebody like that. Every one of us have a friend, a parent, an acquaintance, a coworker, that really, that person always have the right judgment. That person always, when they walk into a room, they understand what's going on, they can react accordingly. For me personally, it was easy because I lived with one person like that. It was my dad. He always had the right judgment. I learned from him everything I know. And he walks into a room, automatically, he knows how to behave, how to react, and how to do the right thing. And I'm still a student in this domain, but it was easier coming to me because I lived with it since my childhood. So how to become virtuous? Your character is developed through habitation. So mainly, it's just the power of your habits. you need to practice it. You need to force yourself into certain habits, and afterward it become part of your nature. One concept that we all agilists talk about is see one, do one, teach one, or be one. And that's the one way that you can go to really become virtuous. The best thing for us to look into is understand individuals that's been doing certain things, really impacting their surrounding, impacting their organization, or impacting the entire globe, and learn from them. And this is not just for individuals, it also applies on organizations or companies. So when we're looking across companies, you can see certain companies that really is, whatever they do, it's always the right thing toward humanity, the right thing toward their customer. And their mission is well defined. They have a common or well-known purpose, and they go after it. And people would not question anything they do because they understand the core behind it is valuable. A concept around really understanding virtue. Aristotle says virtue is the golden mean between two vices, the one of excess and the other one of deficiency. Really finding that balance is critical. You don't want to go beyond really the golden mean. That is not easy done, again. It comes from experience. It comes from understanding your surrounding as an individual, understanding your purpose as an organization, understanding what you're trying to serve and what you're trying to bring to this world. And that's part of your moral responsibility. So when we're talking about moral responsibility, I look into it as ought imply can. That's a golden theory for me and the way I think. If you really can do it, you're actually are obligated to do it. This is the way you think about it from that perspective. So in human nature, humans are just rational social animals, part of a big pack. That's our society. Nature had built into us a desire to be virtuous. This should come easy to us. In nature, humans are good. Maybe a few exceptions, but when you look across the globe and you look in humanity in general, that goodness is built in it. It's actually our mission in life to be good. It satisfies us and helps us to live a better life. If you are virtuous, you can attain the pinnacle of humanity. That's based on Aristotle, the way he looked into it or named it as Eudaimonia, which mainly from a Greek word comes, it's the pinnacle of humanity, which mainly focus around life well lived. So when you're looking in general about really virtuous and being virtuous, you're looking into really living a life of achieving something. So in general, the way we go after it, we need to have a purpose in our life. We need to go after mastery for the crafts that we do. If we're a software engineer, if we're a leader, if we're just any other profession, we really want to be the best at what we do. And we want to always strive to do better. And if we can achieve that, that's really the pinnacle of humanity for us. This is a life well lived. Achievements is what's going to fuel our happiness and what's going to fuel the way we live, behave, and act in an organization or outside of the organization. And that's what we go after when we're talking about the nature of individuals. So it should come easy to us to really do the right thing, because if we do the right thing, we're not doing it for others. We're doing it for our own self, and it can help us to live a better life. Which brings me to the example I'm giving here around Ford Motor Company. Ought implied can. So when this COVID-19 pandemic hit, and we saw a number of different organizations running to try to figure out how to do the right thing, it honestly came very natural to Ford Motor Company. Not because I'm part of that organization, maybe because I'm so close to it, I saw how this came so natural to them because it's been progressing through the few years before. Ford Motor Company had positioned themselves in a way that really are going after a common why for their mission within life. It's not anymore about just profitability to the stakeholders. The way the company is structured and the way the company is led is really to focus around providing mobility to humanity, really serving the human element behind it. And that's where, when the pandemic hit, Ford Motor Company was in a very good position to step in and start really manufacturing equipment that would help in healthcare. Ventilators, they partnered with 3M and GE and were able to really manufacture those ventilators with almost no time and bring them to the market. Face shields, masks, and other medical equipment. And that always came down to really what the company believes in and their moral responsibility to their surrounding, really having a core value and purpose to serve and be able to support. And this is not something new to Ford. So based on my experience and knowledge, what led Ford to step in is really the overall transformation that Ford been going on for longest time. So this is not something new. Even in the 50s, the 40s, Ford always stepped in and did the right thing. But they didn't stop there. They kept their organization evolve, and really they continuously improved to get to where we are right now. So Ford focused on a lean approach that focused on understanding value. Moved the organization right now from a project-based into a product-based, looking at value streams, looking at business capability, understanding the customer experience, understanding what the customer really is after. Also worked very hard on changing the internal culture of the organization. So they considered the culture, the organizational structure, the business strategy and the priorities. They focused on long-term behavioral changes and really shifting the old culture into a different, newer culture that supports what comes at it to really create an anti-fragile organization. Ford focused on KPIs and measurements that help to assess product impact and value. They built a self-sustained change management community that helped to drive any new changes within the organization. All of what I'm talking about is still also a work in progress. This is a stopping work that's always gonna continuously improve and evolve as time comes. They continue to learn from individuals and teams, support the organizational approach for new behavior and mindset. They change the overall mindset of a lot of teams, individuals, and part of the organization. And there continues to evolve through experimenting and learning. This is a big part of also the change that we're seeing, where we're seeing a number of different experiments run across the organization, focusing on really learning on what's the next thing that we need to do. So once you start seeing how Ford been preparing themselves to be where they are, you see exactly why they were able to step in and be virtuous, because they've been living it. It's part of their DNA. It's really part of serving and doing the right thing at the right time to the right people. So Ford did not focus on any of those frameworks, but focused on all of them. So practices across the board from all of this been implemented and learned within the organization, but the main focus that was taken, so we didn't follow one or the other, was really to look into outcome-based plan. So we look into a specific team, we look into a specific area, and we look into how we want to be able to transform that area into a higher standard. So we look into a outline for a plan that's based on outcomes, and we try to execute to that plan and outcomes, where we can get teams to be autonomous, where we can get teams to really add value and be able to progress. So I'm gonna leave you with this here, just a way for you to think about what you can do as individuals to be able to move your organization or move your team or even just your life to the next level. Always think about what you can do, and it's always gonna start with you.